The first item is citizen comments. Any person who is not scheduled on the agenda may address the city council under citizen comments or on any other agenda item by completing a citizen's appearance request form with the city secretary. A member of the public may address the city council regarding an item on the agenda either before or during the council's consideration of the item, upon being recognized by the mayor upon consent of the city council. Citizens will have 3 minutes to address the council. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city council is restricted in discussing or taking action during citizen comments. I understand we have 12?
It's 11 now.
11? All right, and you've got a timer that's going to
Yes, sir.
time? So when you hear the timer go off, you know that you're come to the end of your 3 minutes, and hopefully you'll wrap up your comments as soon as possible after that. All right, would you introduce the first?
Yes, sir. Ann Lapkin, 901 West Texas.
Finally. Good evening. My name is Ann Lapkin. I've lived in Grapevine for 11 years, and I am absolutely furious at the cavalier disregard that the city appears to have for my money and that of my fellow citizens. We were treated this evening to a fascinating display of contempt for the mayor, the city council, and the citizens. I came here with a list of questions, hoping that I'd be able to scratch some of them off because they would be answered, and unfortunately none of them were. So, to the city manager. How is it that a city with an operating budget of $173 million operates with accounting controls so lax that they would embarrass a first-year accounting student? How is it that an accounting department is so incompetent that they did not figure out that this was happening for several years? I'm pretty sure that Kevin didn't stand up in August and say, gee, I think I'll go buy lawn furniture with Ann Lapkin's money. A simple Google search turns up that a theft in Texas of an amount between $30,000 and $150,000 is a felony in the third degree. How is it that the thieves were not referred to the district attorney for a decision on prosecution? And in what alternative universe is a thief provided with an opportunity to resign or retire gracefully? Okay? And I might point out that that was conveniently after the nomination rolls were closed for the next election. For the auditor, can you actually stand here and tell us with a straight face that you deserve our business? There is a reason that commercial operations change their auditor once every 4 or 5 years. To the mayor and the city council, of everyone here, I am most disappointed in you. Your job is to oversee the management of the city. The city manager reports to you. He has obviously violated our trust, but so have you. You've not demanded the proper controls be put in place. You've not held him to account for efficient and ethical operation of the city. This may be our first embezzlement, though I doubt it, but it's not the first time that the city council has acquiesced to unplanned costs overruns. So as much as Leon would like to move on, we're not ready to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next. All right, we're not going to have any demonstrations. You're entitled to speak, but this isn't a pep rally. It isn't a high school pep rally either. It's a government body, and we're interested in what you have to say. But some people are intimidated if people are going to react to what they have to say and won't say freely what they want to. So that's why we just be very calm and let everybody speak their piece, and we'll take it under advisement.
Marsha Wesley, 427 East Texas Street.
Yes, I have several questions for the council and the mayor and the city manager. Why were we, the citizens of Grapevine, not notified prior to the Star-Telegram article about these thefts of funds? How and when were you, the mayor and city council, notified of this, and in what manner? I would like to hear from the original internal auditor, Natalie. It seems that it would have been very transparent if she would have been at this meeting to answer questions and just for mere presence. But all of a sudden, she's just no longer, around. And that makes it look bad. My third thing is, why were the employees who embezzled these funds from the city and their residents not responsible for the inconclusive charges or the charges without receipts? Please explain to us, the residents of Grapevine, how you can look the other way at such fraudulent behavior. Although these employees are not elected officials, you are. And we expect you to represent and protect the tax dollars we pour into the city. I would like to also refer to several of the people who have been up here, the auditor and several people referred to the actions as fraud. I'd like to read the definition of fraud to you. Wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. What is the number for the city of Grapevine that you do not press charges? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Nicholas Kaufman, 205 South Dooley Street.
Good evening, Council. I'd like to start with this letter that was sent by a whistleblower to my business address at 603 South Main Street, Suite 304 here in Grapevine. I'd also like to encourage any others who'd like to speak up and remain anonymous to do the same. This letter was sent in an envelope containing the Grapevine seal from the city manager's office. And the letter states the following. Internal auditor brought suspicious findings to city manager in September, October 21. The city attorney, very close friends with Kevin, created the restitution agreement between Kevin and Ruth to avoid prosecution as crime and theft. City attorney said that if the agreement was in place, district attorney would not press charges. Both employees' personnel records show they're eligible for rehire. Kevin was allowed to retire. He was not terminated, so he gets to keep all his retirement. City paid lifelong health benefits, and he was paid out all vacation in a very large lump sum. Ruth was also paid out vacation time in a lump sum. The city manager at first wanted to keep them on staff if they agreed to repay stolen money after investigation. It was asked of the finance department to use the accounts to hide the repayments while they remained employed by the city. Other staff did not agree with keeping them on staff. Ruth's credit card was taken away October 21 at the beginning of the investigation. Kevin was able to keep his until 2/21 when he resigned. Credit card charges are still coming in from October to February 2022. No records of wrongdoing currently in each employee's personnel files. Investigation only went back 18 months, but Kevin was director for 8 years. Multiple finance staff, including the internal auditor, resigned in January due to be asked to do unethical things to protect Kevin and Ruth. The citizens and the press need to know the truth. That's the end of their letter. Now, we know this is hearsay. I don't know who sent this letter. I have typed up a copy here so that I can provide you with it. Obviously, Mr. Boyle and Mr. Rumbelow are good, respectable citizens in this, so I don't want to start a bandwagon because we don't know if this is true. But I would like the answers to these questions to come from this council. I do understand that many business owners and residents are afraid to speak up because of fear of retaliation from certain members on this council. But I read the other day, a voice is a powerful thing. It can shine a light on something that is hiding in the dark. It can change the way people think, which can change the way people act. But it can't do anything if you keep your mouth shut. Might I suggest in closing that we create some sort of ethical hotline? We had that in every major corporation I've ever worked. So that way it's a safe avenue for city staff to be able to raise these concerns to you and to the public and for us to be able to address them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Courtney Sanders, 1201 Mural Road.
Good evening. Like everyone else here, I've been very disappointed, and one of my questions is that once the theft was discovered, why the audit did not go back the entire length of their employment. Why wouldn't we want to investigate all of their spending once we figured out that they were lying and stealing from us? And why were they not terminated immediately without benefits or any additional money given? So they've already stolen money from us, and we're going to give them more money as they walk out the door. And who was involved in this decision, and why did we choose not to file criminal charges? And honestly, I think that every one of you who agreed to let these crimes go unpunished, tried to cover it up, or tried to keep them on staff because they're your friends, should resign immediately. You have defiled your positions, and you have embarrassed our city, and you have made a mockery of all of our citizens and our tax dollars.
Thank you very much. Next.
Danielle Kaufman, 205 South Dooley Street.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. I came here tonight to understand what the approval process was. It was stated in tonight's report that there was not approval process and it was based on trust and a sample audit. For this reason, I am requesting that the city authorize a third-party audit on all city staff and council for the last 3 years. It was stated that the policy is clear, but yet it was updated in the last 3 months. Who is enforcing the policy and holding employees accountable? This is not complicated, as it was stated earlier tonight. This is fraud, it's illegal, and it's wrong. It was stated that the discrepancies were found by an external party first. Why not internal first? In my corporate job as department head, I had approved my assistant manager's purchase of $10 pair of scissors. I was questioned why I did not approve a pair of scissors that only cost $3. I literally had to pull the $3 scissors out of the trash to show that they were broken, and this is why I approved $10. My point to this is there's approval on all levels, and if I have to justify $10 for a business expense, I think that our citizens deserve that type of scrutiny as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Carrie Stevens, 2204 Ryan Ridge.
Wouldn't you find it in the best interest of the parties involved to have someone outside the city that is not personally connected to write the restitution agreement? I believe some of you have forgotten why you're sitting in those seats. We, the citizens, put you there to be our guardians, the guardians for the people, to make sure things like this don't happen, and if they do, to hold those guilty accountable. You have clearly not done this. You talk restitution and separation. What about prosecution? There are reasons for term limits. To have a fresh perspective on ethics and compliance, even if it's obtained in the private sector.
Thank you very much. Next.
Dave Custable, 2113 Branchwood.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Mr. Romulo, I think you did a great job with getting this addressed quickly and getting a third party in. You know, we have bad actors, and once in a while when they're complacent, they've been in their position for a long time, sometimes they get entitled. The only question I think a lot of us in this city would like to know is when somebody does something that could be construed criminal, or at least they should at least have the, we should not be retiring people. We should be making sure that we set a good example for the rest of the community as well as our employees that we're not going to tolerate this, and it's not going to be just retiring. What they did was wrong. It was premeditatedly wrong, and I'm hoping that y'all can investigate it a little bit further and give us some answers as to why there's no criminal prosecution to it.
Thank you very much. Next.
Rachel Abel, 2716 Devonshire Court.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Abel, and I'm a resident of Grapevine. Tonight is the first time I've spoken in an open forum of a city council meeting, which should signify the magnitude of tonight's special meeting topic dealing with the audit from the embezzlement discovery. In 2018, my son played a season of select baseball for the now defunct, corrupt, and felon-ridden Raiders Baseball Club. Kevin Mitchell was in charge of this exclusive contract between the baseball club and the city of Grapevine. I hope this contract has been examined in the audit investigation, since the Mitchell family directly benefited from this contract. As a parent in the baseball program, I often question why the city partnered with the Raiders to exclusively use our highly sought-after fields when the baseball club was so poorly managed. Now, throw in the fact that Kevin Mitchell also bragged to Raiders parents that he held the keys to the kingdom of Grapevine. Well, it is all starting to make sense now. Keys to the kingdom and an unchecked city expense account. Tonight's special meeting was to discuss the findings of the audit. However, I expect the discussion also to cover why criminal charges were not filed. If the city of Grapevine fails to file criminal charges against Kevin Mitchell and Ruth Chiego, our city, in turn, will not only condone the behavior of these two former employees, but will set a precedent that any city employee that embezzles funds should not expect to face criminal charges. I am not sure about you, but I don't want to live in a city where it's widely known that there is zero consequence if you steal and cheat the system. I do not want that kind of corruption. Clearly, more oversight processes need to be put in place, as well as examples should clearly be made to protect the hard-fought, stellar reputation of Grapevine from being negatively impacted going forward. As I conclude, I want to note that the timing of Mr. Mitchell's retirement and Ms. Chiego's resignation should be noted. Both employees left their city positions the very first business day after the election filing date closed for two of our city council seats, despite the city knowing about this fraud last fall. And the election for those seats has now been canceled. Is this linked or mere coincidence? I'm not sure, honestly, but from the outside looking in, it must be considered. Thank you for listening, and thank you for representing our citizens with the duty of loyalty and obedience that our residents have elected you to serve and uphold on the City of Grapevine Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
I'm sorry, I can't read this. The only thing I can read is the address is 1380.
That may be me because I shake a lot. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink sweet soup.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Is it Mike Conroy? Let's call it that.
Let me get this. Like I said, I don't eat soup. And okay. Thank you, Council, for your attendance. In 1976, I learned in my only two accounting classes the concept and need and benefits of segregation of duties and internal controls. From 1978 to 2018, during my corporate career, never was I the final and only approval of my expense reports. Director, VP, and above expense reports came under additional review due to their position of authority. Nobody was exempt from secondary approval. This is such a basic management concept that the city staff should be embarrassed and challenged. This is Management 101. This is not an external audit issue. This is an internal management competency issue. I strongly encourage the city management revisit the very basic management guidelines of segregation of duties and internal control policies and procedures. I personally believe that theft and fraud insurance is an admission of concern that the purchaser, us, chooses not to address and create appropriate remedies. I suggest not spending additional monies on external financial audits. Instead, I ask the city to spend monies on a professional external review of internal controls. My concern is that the P-card abuse may be the tip of the iceberg regarding sound city management regarding the internal controls and segregation of duties. I also believe the city manager acted improperly by not keeping the city council informed timely and fully. I believe he disrespected the city council's authority on major issues facing the city. We are here because 3 city leaders, 2 directors, and 1 city manager exercise extremely flawed decision-making, not a favorable impression of professional city management. And finally, my only question is, how many P cards have been removed from the system? Did the city determine there are excessive P cards within the city and pull those back from city use? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Stephen Blake, 2806 Northwood Court.
As Henry VIII said to each of his wives, I promise I won't keep you long. A lot of the points have already been made, so I'm not going to go over it. But one of the things that I do want to address is the crisis in competence. We expect our public officials to act in an appropriate way. And I don't expect our local government to look like the federal government when it comes to bureaucracies. And all I'm here to basically say is, without going over should somebody have been fired for cause, should criminal investigations be looked into, I believe in all those things. But what I am really more concerned about is when the mayor and city council are not timely brought into a matter like this, there's a confidence problem. And if bureaucracy is able to do that, it can't stand. And I just urge this board to look into these matters carefully and make appropriate, because it seems to us that everything is just being swept under the table, and this can't stand if we want to continue to prosper and grow. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Rick Winter, 2901 Creek View Circle.
I too want to just reiterate what the previous 11 people said as well. I work for a Fortune 500 company and have been employed there for 30 plus years. I cannot go get a lunch without having authorization. Some of you on this council have been in these seats way too long and need to stop running. And they need to be voted off. People of Grapevine, you've got to step up and do this. There's no excuse. This is just intolerable. I don't know how you can all sit there and look at all of us with those looks of like you don't really care. It's just, I cannot believe it. Again, I work for a company. I can't go get lunch without having it authorized. So I'm shocked that we do not have a policy on what our spend is, how it works, who's authorizing this, what the policy is, who has these P cards, or who's charging this stuff back to the city. I don't understand how this works. This is one of my first meetings, but I'm very familiar with this. The company I work for does commercial stuff. We do restaurants. The restaurants that coming up here, you're more worried about their signs. You need a sign out in these restaurants, and you're worried about speakers. Oh, good God. I just don't understand how you can all sit up here and we vote for you. And you are paid, right? How could those people get excused with a package? You should have had a legal team freeze their assets. You should have went after them and stopped working for us. They should have been fired. That should have been out in the public news, and you should have been backing each other 100%. How can you sit here and come in here in front of these people and look like this? I don't understand it. God, I hope I don't run into you on the street. Because I'll say what I say. That's the way I was raised. But to sit here on this... And, someone said, oh, I don't want to live in the city. No, we all want to live in the city. We don't want people like you voted into these offices. And you need to get out. Just stop running. I don't know how you managed to get in here, but the questions you all get, and then do you answer them to a public forum? Are you just waiting for us to get done? That's what I'm asking, because I want to know how you're going to answer the questions. Because my first is, are you related to any of those people? Can you raise your hand right now, or you just refuse to do that? Or is anybody related to the people that got let go? So there's no family involved? Okay, that's good to know. But someone's got to be friends. You have to. Are you all friends? Are you friends with each other? Or not really? You're just business people. Okay, that's cool. That's good to know. At least I know where I'm coming from. But for us to sit here and not, that's just, you all cannot sleep at night. I don't know how you can. They just can't. I'm speaking from the heart as a citizen who's been living here for 30 plus years, pay my taxes. I don't have any kids, so my taxes go to the school. I'm all for that. I'm all for the city of Grapevine because it's a great city. But again, not to have a policy in place is appalling to me. And that timer's going to keep timing. That's just you to set a 3-minute timer on here, and you don't allow people to come up here and show you their concerns. And I don't even get a feel that you guys understand where we're coming from. You're just sitting up there, and this is all just politics to you. Because you're sitting here, as the gentleman said previously, we expected when we voted you in these offices to hold that up to a standard. I mean, our government is going to hell the way it is. But on the local level, it can't be doing that. I want to live in this city. Grapevine is an awesome city. We should all be very proud of living here. But we are not proud of the seats staring back at us. We'll stare all of you down because it's disgusting. It's just disgusting that you can all sit there and be okay with this. Those people should have been prosecuted. And I said, you should have got, we have to have a legal counsel for the city of Grapevine. That law firm should have went after them. You should have put a claim out there, froze their assets. You should have went after everything you could have. And they can pay it back. Now I want to know who also, going forward, what is your policy and who's checking over that? Are they writing a check? Who's checking on that? How far does it go and where does the deposits going? And what is our checks and balances? Because you'll need to stop those P cards and those credit cards for the city. They have got to stop. And people need to keep coming up to these meetings, and you all need to sit and listen to it, because that's what you are getting paid to. Thank you.
Next.
No more.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank all of you for your patience with us. We've got a very heavy schedule tonight, as you've seen. Sorry for the delay, but we've done the best we could to accommodate everyone. Thank you for your participation and for your interest in your city government. The city council has listened to you, and we've listened to the staff. We're going to look further and try to get some answers. Might very well, the city manager under our charter has discretion in the hiring and the firing of any employee. It might be, though, that the council has the authority to set a policy of how we handle these things in the future. We'll look at that legal possibility. There's partially civil claims and partially possible criminal claims. They all overlap here, which makes it a lot more complicated than just a total criminal issue. There's no guarantee the DA would even take the case. We tried to see what her policy was, and she wouldn't tell us. So the council has an interest in knowing, trying to find answers to the questions I think that have been raised, and we'll set a process to do that. And to my knowledge, 175-year history of this city, this is the first time we've had this to occur. I think we've been very fortunate. I think the reason why it hadn't, we've tried to have policies enforced that would prohibit it, but it's becoming more and more common in our society. I had a person working for me. I gave them a credit card of $500 to go to Walmart to be able to buy supplies. She used my checking information to electronically pay that $500, which meant it recycled instead of $500 a month. It could be $500 a day. Then she took my bank statements that came into the mail and altered them, reproduced them, where those transactions where she had made electronic payments out of my bank account were not reflected on my bank statement. It took me 2 months to catch it. I kept asking her, where's my bank statement? So I got the bank to reproduce them, and I turned that over to the police, and the police made a plea bargain with her to make restitution to me. And so, you know, that's the way our society is. There's no guarantee that the district attorney or the police wouldn't have done the same thing. There's people throughout that's made mistakes that got a DWI or wrote a hot check or et cetera.
It's not relevant.
And so there's attorneys out there that defend those. And but you're right, we probably need a policy. And we haven't had one because we hadn't had the problem before. But we'll look into that. We'll see if we can't have I'm more concerned how we put financial statements together, why this wasn't discovered quicker, how you can deal with information that's inconclusive. I want an audit report that answers these questions, and I think when we have all of the answers, we can better go forward with a better policy for the people. Thank you for comments. Anybody else want to make any statements? All right. Thank you very much for your participation. We still got agenda items to consider. You're welcome to stay and be a part of your government tonight. All right.